Welcome back. I'm Gila Ross, author of Living Beautifully and host of the Power Up podcast, where we share short, relatable ideas to impact and upgrade your everyday life.
And the life of Sarah was 127 years, the years of the life of Sarah.
Thank you. Anything stand out to you as like interesting or strange or what's going on here? Yes.
We'll just tack on and 7 years. I thought that was different.
Yes. Yeah. It usually you say 127, right? And it's like 127 years. So that's strange thing number one. Anything else that's strange? It's a bit repetitive. If you had the sentence and the life of Sarah was 127 years, you would understand what it meant, right? What does the years of the life of Sarah add to the sentence? So here's a principle to understand about studying the Torah, is that whenever there are anomalies like that in the text, it's there intentionally. And it's there for us to sort of say, hey, what's going on here? Because there's something deeper that is being taught to us in this story. So Rashi, who is one of the commentators on the Torah, asks the question, why does it repeat itself? Why does it say the life of Sarah was 127 years old, 7 years, and the years of the life of Sarah? And he says, anyone wants to guess what he would say? Yeah.
Wasn't it that 7 years is like a child and she was innocent like a child, and then the 20 years was adulthood and she was virtues, and then 100 years she was wise?
Beautiful. So, Elise is answering the question of why does it split it up and say 127? And the idea that is given is that just like a 7-year-old is very like innocent, right? When she was 20, she was innocent like she was when she was 7, when she retained that goodness and that innocence and that purity even as she aged through her life. And when she was 100, she was also like that. It still leaves us with the question of why is it repeating it, right? Why does it have this double expression? It says the years of her life, and then it says, and the life of Sarah. Rashi says that they were all years of goodness, that from the beginning to the end, it was all good. And that's why it says the life of Sarah and then the years of the life of Sarah, because they were all filled with joy and with happiness.
But your life was not good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was almost going to say like, okay, great, we answered the question, let's go. But
Good. What? Say it again.
No, she had a lot of troubles in her life. Yeah.
My husband never tried to take my son and sacrifice him.
fair. And she didn't have children until she was 90 years old, right? She had this maidservant, Hagar, who was making fun of her and who she had to send out of her house. She had Yishmael, who was influencing her son Isaac negatively. She was kidnapped twice, right? Her husbands were sent off to fight in a war. That's a little bit unnerving, I guess. What does it mean that all her years were filled with happiness and joy and it was good from beginning to end?
She had so much faith in Hashem that she was okay with everything Hashem threw out her.
Was she?
Yeah, I think she was. I think that's why it says her days were happy. I think she served a higher purpose.
Okay, so you're saying two things, which is great. Like that, number one, maybe despite everything that happened, she was happy. And you're also saying it's a higher purpose,
Well,
right?
I think if you really think everything comes from Hashem, you know that whatever you're dealing with has a purpose, and you're okay with it because you know that.
Bringing it back to our lives, even if someone has faith, it's very hard when you go through a hard thing, right? It's very hard. So what does he mean that it's full of happiness and goodness? So I want to make the question even stronger before we try to answer it. There was a rabbi who went through the Holocaust, the Chazon Ish, and he is quoted as saying, and he can say this because he went through the Holocaust, I can't. He said, for someone who knows the truth, there's no such thing as sadness in the world. Which brings us to the question of, what is happiness? How do we understand happiness? Because it's a very hard thing to understand. Like, what do you mean there's no sadness in the world? It's meant to be the Holocaust. That's not
Yeah.
sad. That's not tragic. What is he saying? Happiness and goodness can be different, right? And we don't yet know what happiness is, right? We're going to look into what is the Jewish understanding of happiness. But it's funny. I went to my kindergarten kids class today to read them a book. So it was so fun. And like the book that I was reading was about an ambulance that, you know, was helping, but he was upset with the job that he got to help. It could be for the good, and you could still be upset about it. You could still be sad about it. Like, even if I know that something's for the good, it's still disappointing, sad, or whatever. Park that question for the moment. Let me ask you a few more questions, okay? In Judaism, are we meant to be happy? Is it a mitzvah to be happy?
Yes,
It's a mitzvah to be happy?
there's certain holidays where we're supposed to be happy. For example, it says when you do a mitzvah, it's so much better if you can do it with joy.
Here's the thing. There's no explicit mitzvah in the Torah that says, thou shalt be happy, right? But you're right. Torah talks about serve Hashem with joy, right? There's expressions like Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, that comes from the Torah, right? Like serve God with joy. And there's other places, for example, when it talks about the terrible things that are going to happen, like the curses that is going to come to the Jewish people, it says all these things are going to happen because you didn't serve God with joy. Again, what does that mean? These terrible things are going to happen because you didn't serve God with joy. It's like if I ask my kids to put away the laundry and they do it and they stomp while they're doing it. They did it at least, right? But so what's going on? So what is Judaism teaching us about happiness? And secondly, if we're supposed to serve God with joy, how do we do it in a world that we live in? There's so much sadness in this world. Are we supposed to be insensitive to other people's sadness? What about if a person themselves is going through a sad thing? We're supposed to ignore it. What are we supposed to do? What about someone who's going through a difficult time? Right? They're supposed to just be happy. But how do we ignore, like, are we supposed to ignore the sadness that goes on in the world? Like, are we not supposed to be sensitive to other people's tragedies? So wouldn't that take away from happiness? If you have a good friend who's going through something difficult.
You're there for them, but you don't have to be sad like they are. You can still be there for them, even if you aren't totally feeling the emotions they're feeling.
And what about someone who's going through something difficult themselves?
Like if you lost a spouse or
Yes.
something. Was it Viktor Frankl that wrote that book and he survived the Holocaust?
Yeah, but he talks about meaning. He doesn't talk about happiness. And it's a good point. And purpose and meaning and happiness are different things.
But can they be related?
Let's find out. Let's find out.
Choice too, it's a verb.
Oh, so you're asking a good question. What is happiness? It's important to understand, because when you understand happiness, it's the difference between a life of frustration and a life of happiness. Nowadays, I think I can venture to say, so many people are looking for, like, how do I achieve happiness, right? Now, I'm going to propose a definition of what happiness is, okay? So, ready? Yes, amazing. Real happiness is what you experience when you are doing what you should be doing.
I agree.
What it should.
Hmm?
What is what you should be doing?
Depending on the situation, it could be a sad situation or it could be a great situation, a happy situation, but you're there doing your purpose.
Every single one of us has a soul. The soul has been sent down into this world on a journey. And when we are on the pathway to actualizing our journey, the result of it is happiness. That is what happens when is an experience that we have when we're doing what we should be doing. And what's interesting is that it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be smiling. You could be sweating, you could be crying, and you could still be happy. I'll give you an example. Imagine, and I may have used this before, so apologies. Imagine an alien comes down to planet Earth, and he's walking past the gym, never seen this before, and he sees the glass window, and he looks inside, and he sees this guy or this woman standing in there, like lifting weights, sweat dripping down his face, and he thinks, oh my goodness, there must be a taskmaster. And what the alien doesn't realize is that the guy has chosen to do this and is paying for the privilege of it. And why? Because accomplishments is always made against resistance. And happiness comes when we achieve that resistance. So the guy in the gym can be sweating and yet he feels good. He chooses to be there. And if you ask him afterwards, how was it? What's he going to say?
It's great.
It's great. And if it was an easy workout, what was he going to say?
Not so good.
Not so great, right? The more the resistance, the better he feels about himself. The pain contributes to the pleasure. Here's a question for you. If we're saying that happiness comes from doing what I should be doing, how comes sometimes we don't feel pleasure in the effort?
Because we might not be doing what our sole purpose is.
Okay, so that could be one reason, right? We're not doing what we should be doing, right? You know, and there's a right way to achieve happiness, and there's a wrong way to achieve happiness. We'll get to that in a moment. Parents of a child, right? They could be doing good and still feel unhappy. So how comes we don't feel the pleasure of it?
If you work really hard to reach a goal, that doesn't mean that it's a resistance. Medical school was really hard. I wanted to be a doctor, so I did it.
Oh, beautiful. You gave a brilliant example, so thank you so much. You said medical school is really hard, but I want to be a doctor. It's the looking forward to the end results that powers us through it. If you were asked to do the same thing, same medical school, but without becoming a doctor at the end of it, what would that experience have been like?
Torture.
Exactly. Right. So that's why it's such a good example, right?
So that's
Because-
the resistance. I think we might be getting caught up on the usage or the terminology of the word resistance. That
Yeah.
we sometimes use it to if I'm resisting something, that means I am avoiding it, I don't like it, I'm pushing it back against it, I'm not moving towards that goal because I'm resisting the goal.
Okay,
As
so-
opposed to, I think how you're describing resistance is the challenge, the
Yeah,
struggle.
Yeah, the
not-
challenge, the struggle, the
Not the
difficulty.
avoidance of it, but
Yeah,
the
yeah, it's-
pursuing through the struggle.
Yeah.
The difficulty, the challenge, whatever you want to call it. Thank you. Evelinda, you wanted to say something?
Maybe I'm jumping ahead, or maybe we're having a different discussion I'm not comprehending. I understand of trying to, all the examples everyone have given are wonderful, and they're all like personal goals. Climbing a mountain, going to medical school, whatever. Let's say your child dies. How are you going to find happiness in that? There's just no happiness in that.
So you're asking a very good question, which is the question of the class. How do you find happiness in something like that? So hold on, because we're gonna get to it at hopefully towards the end of the class. Right? But where we are right now, right? The happiness is the experience we have when we're doing what we should be doing, right? And the happiness is derived, like if you work a little bit hard, you feel a little bit good when you achieve it. If you work very, very hard, you're very excited when you do it, right? When you finish medical school, it's huge because you put in all those years and effort and everything for it, right? It's different than when you just fix a screw somewhere. The pleasure derives itself from the pain, and we get through the pain by looking forward to the end result, right? If you've ever done something for someone that you know is like super critical, and you know you're working for them and you're going to put this out and you know they're not going to be happy with it, it's very demoralizing. So so that we have sort of this pattern, right? That the pleasure is in relationship to the pain, and we get through the pain by looking to the end result. Why do we have this pattern? Because this is the pattern of the world. God created two different worlds, this world and the next world. This world is the world where we work, we achieve, we do. The next world is the world where we just have reward. It's just to be. Now, has anyone ever done a hard thing? Yes. How do you feel when you achieved it?
Great.
And then what happens?
You go on to the next thing.
At some point, that happiness goes away. And Hashem specifically made it that way. Why can't you be happy forever? I wrote a book, right? Why can't I just like live on that excitement for the rest of my life? Because then I would never do another thing. So we're happy for a little bit, which is kind of like a taste of what the world to come is like. But then that sense of achievement, that happiness goes away, right? And then we're motivated to do the next thing. So this is why it says serve Hashem with joy. It's not so much about the joy, it's about the serving. That if we take care of the work, happiness will take care of itself. Happiness is a result of moving towards the goal. That's what it is. Now, we're going to get to the question because it's a good question. So when the Chazon Ish was saying that there's no sadness, he's saying for someone who is moving their whole life towards their goal, there is no sadness. Is it hard? Could be, right? Is it excruciating? Could be. So what is sadness? If that's what happiness is, what's the root of sadness?
From God.
It's the feeling of no movement, right? The feeling that I'm not getting anywhere in life. It sometimes can be much more subtle than that. A person can be, and I'm not talking about clinical depression here, I'm talking about like sadness. A person can be sad and they may not know why, right? But where's the root of where it's coming from is it's from the soul who's irritated kind of that I'm here to do something and I'm not moving. So what's the antidote for it? The antidote for it is to get moving. Because even movement in the wrong direction, even physical movement, but that's one of the reasons why going for a walk is so helpful. Does it solve everything? No. But you go for a walk, you feel a little bit better, right? You start moving, you can't tell someone, be happy. But what you can tell them is, come do this thing with me. And that's the movement in our life towards our life purpose. And we can talk another time about what that exactly looks like and means, is what creates happiness. There's also a wrong way to achieve happiness. What do I mean by that? Is, let me give you an analogy. Let's say you need something couriered to a different city. So you hire a courier and you tell the courier, look, this is very important. I'm sending you with this envelope. It's very valuable. Please take good care of it. And you know that there's traffic on this road, so avoid that road. And you know that that road is not a safe road. So avoid that road. Go this way, go that way. And you give him a full list of instructions. He goes off, comes back, and he's happy and he's like, I did everything you wanted me to do. I avoided that road, I went on that road, I avoided that road, I went on the road you told me to do. You're like, great. Did you deliver the package? And he's like, no, I forgot, right? And sometimes we can get so busy in life, we can be so busy that we forget what we're really here for.
Forget the
Right?
purpose.
We forget the purpose of what we're really here for. And that's our soul's journey. You know, someone can be focused on building the world's biggest stamp collection, for example, right? It's a nice hobby, but your soul is destined for greatness. So something to bear in mind is that we have to be moving, but we can't mistake busyness for doing what we need to be doing in our life. And what's the false belief of this world, and I think some of the big problems of today is that you can get happiness for free. If I said, I will be happy. If I go on a vacation to Hawaii, I'll be happy. Yes, you'll have fun. Yes, you'll be comfortable. Yes, you'll have pleasure. But
It's short-lived.
what happens when you come home? That's not happiness. I think we confuse the fun, exciting things with happiness. That's not happiness. And there's no such thing as free happiness. There is no such thing as free happiness. If you want happiness, you have to work for it. How do we work for it? It's not just about perspective and things. Yes, we're going to learn in a little bit about perspective as well. But it also means that we are here achieving our life's purpose. I think that's what you're saying is man's search for meaning, right? Viktor Frankl, and he writes that is that we have a drive. Our soul knows we're here for a purpose, and we have a drive in our life to pursue that purpose. And when we're not pursuing that purpose, the result is sadness. When we are pursuing that purpose, the experience is happiness, even if it's hard, even if it can be incredibly hard, right? I want to share a story with you. So there was a guy in Michigan. His name was Chesky Schoening, a sweet young boy who was unfortunately diagnosed with leukemia. And his parents obviously were like devastated. His father was, one day he's in the synagogue, and someone comes over to him and it's like, how's it going? How are you doing? And he's like, it's having a hard day. It's really hard. And he says to him, your son will be okay. Whether he should or shouldn't have said that, we can discuss another time, right? So Chesky's father says, how do you know? He quoted him a phrase. He says, from Tehillim. And what does it mean? It says, come with their horses and their chariots. And we come with the name of God. What he was telling him is that you have God on your side. God is going to carry you through. You don't have to just worry about statistics. Unfortunately, Chesky passes away. And the father's sitting shiva, and he's very bothered by this, right? He's very bothered by this guy told me it's going to be okay. He quoted me this phrase. I latched onto that phrase, right? That they go, they go with their horses and chariots, but we have God. God lifts us above statistics. God can do the impossible for us. And he's thinking about it, and one day it struck him. Because what King David is discussing here is not necessarily during the battle. He's discussing the appraisal after the battle. Because what happens after a war is at some point there's going to be an appraisal of what did we do right and what did we do wrong. And when a country sits down and does that, they can look at it and they can say, oh, we should have sent that general in. We should have done that. We should have done that. And by the way, I think, do this the whole time in our lives, right? We look back and we're like, I should have done that. I see some nods around the table. I should have done the other. What Chesky's father said is that Anachnu b'shem Hashem naskir, what that means is Jews don't look back. Why? Not because we don't learn from the past, we do. Because he's referring to his own situation. Unfortunately, a parent loses a child, they can be stuck in that place of, oh my goodness, I should have gone to another doctor, I should have pursued this, or I wish I would have noticed it a few months earlier. It's all those I wishes. But what he's saying is, that we go with the name of Hashem, is we know that this child is not alive because that's what Hashem willed it to be. So I don't have to look back and say, if only I would have done X, Y, Z. And I want to make it very clear, losing a child is excruciating. It's excruciating. And when we talk about happiness, you're not going to be smiling, and we're normal human beings. But when a person has this understanding that when I'm looking at a situation, I have to do my absolute best. But when I'm looking back, the result was because God willed it so. So I don't have to second guess myself. I don't have to kind of look back and say, if only I would have done X, Y, Z. I have that faith that everything is from Hashem and everything is part of our journey, and that gives a person strength to continue to live, right? And one thing I want to make clear is that if you go back to the analogy that I gave of the person in the gym, he's content, right? But he's sweating and he's crying. What the Chazon is saying, and what Rashi is saying about Sarah, is that Sarah had a good life. Why? We look at her life and would think that Sarah had a hard life. And she'd probably agree with us that she had a hard life. And yet, she would say, I had a good life. Why? Because she recognized that every single thing that happened was part of her journey. It was part of what her soul's journey was. Did she know why? Did she know why she needed to get kidnapped twice? Did she know why she had to suffer with infertility for so many years? No, but she understood there was some sort of soul curriculum in all these things that was going on, and if I'm doing what I can do, I'm doing the right thing right now, in the next moment, that gives give us happiness, even though it could be very hard. An expression on our face could be tears, but it gives a person that it could give a person that sense of contentment, that what's happening to me is from God for a purpose, and I'm doing what I need to be doing in life. Any questions, any thoughts? Yes.
We are given choice. I look back and I'm like, I made bad choices because I made them based on fear. So it wasn't Hashem saying that this was what I was supposed to do, because I made that choice, and I was making that choice based on fear and not based on my faith in Hashem.
Okay, you're raising a very good point, right? And I love that you differentiated between things that happen, that Hashem sends to us, and that things that we do. But I think the other distinction also is, I'll give you an example, right? A few months ago, my son called me from the yeshiva in the West Side, and he said to me, I was playing volleyball and I hurt my thumb. Do you think I need to get it seen to? And he said this guy in who he asked, like one of the rabbis in the yeshiva, said he didn't think he needs to go seen to. And I asked him a few questions. I was like, nah, it probably doesn't need to get seen to. This was on Friday. Saturday night, he calls me and he says, the pain's getting worse. Do you think I should get it seen to? And I was like, yeah, you should get it seen to. And he went to urgent care, and they found out that he had broken his thumb, and he actually needed, there's two different things here. I can stand and beat myself up that I didn't send him to urgent care on Friday, but the better way to look at it is, did I learn something from this? Yes, better to go to urgent care and be told it's fine than not. And last week when my daughter came home, she's like, my fingers like hurt. She got hurt in PE. I'm like, just go to urgent care, right? I learned something from it. But at the same time, for whatever reason, my son was supposed to go through that Shabbos in pain without being seen to. So there's two different things. It's like, what can I learn from it? And this is part of my journey or someone else's journey. It's the same thing. I think that parents often do is they look back and they say, I wish I would have done X, Y, Z different when my kids were younger. It's a legitimate thing to say. And we have to recognize we have to learn from it. Sometimes we have to repair things. At the same time, we can't beat ourselves up for it, because just like your soul has a journey, their soul has a journey. So those two things are kind of true at the same time, that there's something I can learn from it. There's something that maybe I have to repair. If someone someone steals $20,000 from someone else, right? And they look back at it and they say, oh my goodness, I shouldn't have stolen that money. They were supposed to lose $20,000. That doesn't work. You still have to give the money back, right? You still have to repair. At the same time, once you've done what you've had to do, you can let it go, because for whatever reason, that person had to go through that difficulty. Should I have been the one to do it? No. Can I learn from it? Yes. Do I have to repair it? Yes. Do I have to beat myself up about it? No. Because we learn, we repair, and then we recognize that it's part of the journey. It's what Hashem wanted.
So I'm just thinking about your son. So let's say he grows up and all of a sudden he's having some kind of trauma, and he's like, it's because my mother didn't send me to urgent care on Friday. Lots of times when kids grow up and then they start blaming their parents for things.
And I think both are true. If my kids came to me in 20 years' time and said, I'm really upset that you didn't send me to the urgent care, I would say to him, you know what? I was wrong. I shouldn't have done it. And like, I wasn't malicious. It wasn't like, oh, I want you to be in pain over that. And I think that's kind of where it helps to come to peace with it as well. Because let's say I'm so mad at this person for doing X, Y, Z. I'm mad at my mother for not sending me to urgent care. So I can talk to her about it and I can try and repair the relationship at the same time as recognizing it was supposed to be that way. It's part of my journey. And that helps us sometimes repair relationships. Sometimes we do things wrong, and then we have to take ownership for it. But even when we take ownership for the things wrong, we don't have to beat ourselves up with it. I don't have to look back at it and say, I wish I would have done that. It was meant to be that way then. A lot of times we do the best we can with the information we have and whatnot. And sometimes we do things wrong. And yes, we have to take ownership for it. And we don't have to beat ourselves up over what happened, because we can look back at it and say, it's part of the journey. It's part of my journey. It's part of their journey. Do I understand that journey? No.
That's the hard part.
Yeah. If we
So
understood,
how
it would be
can we
so
hear-
easy. Again, we don't understand that. What does it mean that the Holocaust was for our good? Like, we have no idea. What does it mean that, God forbid, someone loses a child and that's part of their journey? What does that mean? Right? Like, we don't understand it.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I'd love to hear your feedback, and if you enjoyed this episode, you'll love my book, Living Beautifully: How to Bring Meaning, Joy, and Love into Your Life, based on the timeless wisdom of Pirkei Avot. And please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out. Have a wonderful day.